I just ate.
Go ahead. Yes, girl.
That's my self-care.
All right, you guys. This is Bryn from the Mom on the Rocks, and got my coffee right here. Miranda's got her Hershey's. What you got? Anything? You gotta go get you something.
No, I know I need to. I'm doing intermittent fasting, so I'm not eating.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for flashing that in your face. I apologize.
I'm not even sorry, because if I look like you, I wouldn't be fasting about nothing. I'd be fasting.
No, you can't see below the camera.
Oh gosh. Okay. So I'm so excited about tonight for a couple of reasons. First of all, I met Miranda Connor, like 3 weeks ago, but I feel like I've known her for 100 years. So our good friend Sydney Peltier, who has been our expert 100 times, she connected me with Miranda, and it was like instant boom. Miranda and I, soul sisters, spirit animals, all of the above, twinsies. And so I'm so excited because you guys, you know me, she has a heart for people who are difficult. She has worked with basically every audience you can imagine in the extreme arena: parents, families, adolescents, teens, kids, all of it. She served in our military, which I'm so grateful for that. She is a mom of 5, which is like about 4 too many kids. She's like just a few shy of a sports team. Yep. And I'm also so excited because this is our last live on this platform. We're switching over to the Facebook supporter platform, which is like, I'll just be honest, because this is my safe space, really, really scary for me. Because this is the place where people that have like millions of followers do their business, and I am not that person. But we crossed 50,000 today. Do you guys know how big of a deal that is? That's more people than in my hometown. Woohoo!
Congrats!
So, now we're just saying all the prayers that God's going to send all the people over, because I got to pay my bills. So here we are, and tonight we're talking about something that is dear to my heart, because y'all know I've worked with people with juvenile offenders, getting ready to start my internship working with juvenile sex offenders, and Miranda has worked with this field. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this, and I kind of joke around about like, I'm certain my kid is either gonna like lead a gang in prison or a Fortune 500 company. Jury's still out on which one that's gonna be, but I just know that's what our kids are built to do. They are natural leaders. They are sweet, kind, lovers, but they just sometimes struggle with how they articulate that. And so I wanted Miranda to talk to us about some kind of differences and red flags we might want to take notice of in our kids, maybe some ways for us to handle that. And then particularly right now, not just because it's the holiday season, but also because 2020 has basically kicked our whole rear ends. So what can we do as parents who are essentially, like, for lack of better words, really trapped with our kids, and our kids are trapped with us, and there's really just no escaping it? I wrote an article this week that really seemed to resonate with people. Hey, Audrey, that talked about how 2020 is basically like a car ride you can't get out of. You're just trapped with your kids forever and ever, amen, and you want to throw them out the window. And so she's going to talk to us about red flags with our kiddos. What do we need to be paying attention to? And also red flags in ourselves. Because one thing I notice is the more in tune I can be with my own body and with my own anxiety, the better off. I'm not perfect at it by any stretch of the imagination, but the better off I am at kind of heading off, snapping at my kid. Because I can know, like, I can tell you right now, I do most of my work online. So when I'm in my phone and my kid just thinks I'm doing nothing, and I'm actually emailing or sending something for school or doing something, and then I get interrupted, oh, sister, 0 to 100 in a hot minute. And so I know that's something for me if I'm hungry or tired, which is basically how I live my life. So these are the things I want Miranda to touch on today. So Miranda, we've met you before, but because I'm going to post this video in our new group, their Facebook supporter group, give us just a brief synopsis of who you are and why you do what you do, and then let's just get right into it tonight.
Okay. Well, like Bryn said, thank you for having me again. My name is Miranda Connor. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I am an Andrea, a certified therapist, as well as a consultant in training. And I'm also a certified sex offender treatment professional. That is, like Bryn said, my heart. I love difficult kids. That's just always been ever since that I first started in the field as an intensive in-home worker. That's just who I got, was the big mean ones. And so now I'm like, give me the big mean ones. I love
Yes.
them. I don't want the little babies. Like, give me the
Same.
big mean ones. It's going to cuss me out.
That's
Like,
right.
bring it. I currently work in a juvenile detention center. And holy moly, oh my heart. That is where my heart lies. I love my kiddos there. I love the environment. It has transformed me as a clinician to work with kids at such high need.
Yes.
So I think I mentioned in my last time that I was on here, you know, the average ACE score that comes into my facility is like an 8 or above.
Yes.
And, you know, at any given time, we might have all 10s.
Yes.
So lots of trauma. And even though I said I never want to work with kids in trauma, that's all I've ever done.
Isn't that how it works? And for those that watch this back, ACE scores are adverse childhood experiences, and you can go online and just Google search that and take that test for free. It's, what is it, 10 questions? Is that right?
10 questions.
Yep.
And every yes is a point.
Yes, every extreme parent should take that, because oftentimes, even though trauma is not necessarily generational, oftentimes we operate out of our trauma. And for that reason, it's really important. It can be very insightful for you to know that as a parent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's lots of really neat statistics that talks about medical issues that are linked to the higher ACE score.
Yes. By the way, our nails match right now. It's fine.
See,
our glasses match, our nails match. It's fine. Go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. We do it on purpose.
If you can get my eyebrows on point, then we're ready to roll.
We'll get you there, girl.
That's right. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. But so, you know, when we're working with like difficult kiddos, you know, and you talk about the differing in red flags, so much of that is like learn.
Okay, did she freeze up on you guys?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see. Miranda, where you at, girl? I'm gonna text her. While she's trying to rejoin us, have y'all done the ACE score before? Are you familiar with that? Have you heard of it?
No, so this was helpful for me.
Yes, so I would highly suggest, it is a general quiz you can take, and it's the same 10 questions. And essentially they say if you operate out, she's gonna come back on. If you operate at about a 3 or higher, then your trauma is significant enough that it will affect your everyday life. So of course your relationships and your parenting. All right.
Well, Isaac just kicked me out.
That's all right. We were just talking about ACE scores, so you're good. We're on track.
Okay. So I had started out talking about, you know, you talked about red flags for kiddos that, you know, extreme, big behaviors, big feelings. And so one thing I always say is, you know your kiddo's baseline. And so even for yourself, like I will say that the same thing for a parent, like, you know what your baseline is. What is the regular, what you look like day in and day out? Because our kiddos could tell us a lot, whether it is that they're really heightened, but also if they fall back a little bit, that could tell us some big stuff. A kiddo that normally is kind of in our face, interrupting, you know, that starts to kind of isolate. That could tell us just as much as that kiddo throwing a temper tantrum. So getting to know your kiddo's baseline, what is the normal for them? And also, what is the normal for when they deal with big emotions? Because although that's not always what's going to happen, again, knowing what to expect.
And let me say on that one, and I can post in the new group. Now, I've already scheduled out for the rest of the year in the current group, so I won't add anything to that unless just something random comes up during the day. But I will post this in this supporter group. I have an ABC chart, which is part of the Extreme Parenting Discipline resource, the e-course. And that's wildly important. We did that with our son. We've done it several times when he's changed meds or different things. But basically, the antecedent, what happened before, what was the behavior, and what was the consequence. And it gives you like a column for what time of day it happened, what room were you at, or were you at the library, or where were you? How did you respond? And listen, I will tell you right now, when we went for his IEP meeting in kindergarten, where he was not approved for an IEP because we were told, I mean, in my district, that my kid was too smart. Oh, and heads about rolled, let me tell you. And I showed them a 4-page paper from 1 week of behaviors. And I'm talking about every one of those lines were explosive. They were like, this is not the kid we see at school. And that can be very telling for you in things like therapy, IEP meetings, behavior specialists, med appointments, psych evals, all those things. These are charts you want to print off, put it in a binder, carry it with you, chronologically keep it in order, because as your child grows and matures, of course, puberty throws a whole wrench in the system. So these are things that as parents that we can not only be telling, it was telling of our son, of course, it was also telling of me. Mm-hmm. Hey, when I was in the living room on my phone doing work at 8 p.m. and it's 30 minutes before my kid's bedtime, he needed my attention. That was on me. And so it was good for me to see that, as much as it hurt my mama heart. So those are things that we need to be aware of. So definitely, I'll post that. And if y'all don't see it, remind me, send me a reminder.
Yeah. And so as mamas, like, one of the tough things is oftentimes our biggest behaviors can be at home, because that is our safe place. So it's like a blessing and a curse. Like, here we've created this safe nest for our babies, but then it's like our babies are banshees at home.
Yes.
And because they know that they can be safe to feel those really big feelings with us. So again, knowing our own baseline, knowing when it's time for, we talked about last time, like, to tap out. Mm-hmm. But, even if it is, when we find ourselves getting stressed out, maybe even asking our kiddos, like, hey, you know what, mama's feeling a little stressed. Like, what do you do? Like, what helps you to feel? And let them be the teacher for a minute.
Oh, yes, I love
right?
that.
Like, flip it over. I'm all about mastery, and so many times when I'm doing therapy with a young person, one of their goals is to be able to teach their parent the coping skills that we're learning, right?
Love that.
Because, and say, hey, you're going in and you know something that your parent doesn't know, and you get to be, the expert, mm-hmm. per se. And so asking our kiddo, hey, I'm stressed. Mama is tired. It's been I've had all these things going on. How do you deal with it when you have all these things going on, or you have, mom, I'm asking you to do 5 things and you're already overwhelmed. Like, how do you find that works best for you? And let them be the helper.
Yeah. Love that.
And you may be surprised.
I'm going to go off script here for a second. Okay. But this is something that's happened to us because we're currently at my parents' for a week, visiting before the holidays. And so we, of course, we're in the car for 14 hours, which is a disaster, regardless of who you are. How do you work? We talked about differing parenting styles before. We talk about it a lot because I think regardless of whether you're in a relationship, whether you are co-parenting with a spouse or ex-spouse outside the home, whether you're dealing with a relative that lives in house, whether you're visiting, how do you get other people on board for that? So how do I help somebody who does not parent in the same way that I do not go 0 to 100 and say, actually, this is what we do. Could you try this? Like, give me a little pointer on that.
So kind of like that unsolicited advice.
Girl, you better preach. I already just made a meme about that and went ahead and posted it. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And that may be one of those things of, hey, this is not the time, a simple redirection. Hey, if you're interacting with your kiddo and then here's Aunt Barbara Ann, right, that is bopping in saying, you know what, I wouldn't have never let my kid mm-hmm. just be able to say, excuse me, Aunt Barbara Ann, and take your kiddo and say, hey, buddy, let's you and I step in here or whatever else. And then even after that follow-up, hey, I get that you were coming from a good place, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions. That's right? Exactly right. And so, it really
to be paved with Barbara Ann's weave if she comes at me sideways again. Just
there you go. There you go. But, being able to say, hey, this actually causes some triangulation with my kid because it looks like you're challenging what I'm trying to do. Yes. Even though you're trying to say I'm not being harsh enough to my kid, it's sending a mixed message that somebody else is questioning my parent. And so are they doing it right?
Right.
And so maybe they're receptive. Maybe not.
So what are some things we need to be looking for in ourselves? Because We talked about the ACEs score, which anyone that watches this on playback, I'm just going to tell you, you need to look, even if you're not seeing a therapist, which I'm just going to say, I think every person should in America.
Amen.
Don't hurt to talk to somebody, and guess what? You pay them because you don't have to see them on the street.
There you
And
go.
so, but I look it up because it can give you a lot of insight to yourself, and also it can help you even just to, it's like almost like getting a diagnosis. Like it's sort of the necessary evil of being able to place a name to what you've been experiencing. And so in some ways it can offer relief for our kids, for us. So how are some things, like what are some ways we as parents can recognize if we're getting in the red?
Okay. So the biggest thing is, something so basic, right? They call it a SUD scale, right? Subjective units of distress. They have all kinds of really neat ones. I think I made one once that looked like a margarita glass, right?
Yes, I need that.
So, yes. And so really just a simple 1 through 5. And so when you're creating it for yourself, like not only looking at yourself, but asking the people around you. So partners are great. This is another place that you could do this activity with your kiddos. There's all kinds of cute printouts that are like llamas or, fire extinguishers. Thermometer is a main one. And have like this little family activity. We're going to do this. So let's all go around and talk about and give each other positive feedback of, hey, we know that, Junior, when he starts getting angry, his face turns red. Yeah. Right? Because those are things maybe he doesn't notice, but we do. But the same thing, how do you guys notice that mom is getting frustrated or angry or upset?
Yes.
What does mom look like? What does mom's body language look like when mom's happy, calm, cool, collected? And get feedback from other people, because once you learn that and you really start figuring out, I know that if I start kind of fidgeting in my hands, that it is time for me to exit away from that situation, because I know that if, I joke at work, if I get to pacing, somebody's going to get punched in the face.
That's right.
So knowing those things enough to say, this is what my body is telling me, but making it something for you and your kiddos, right?
Yeah.
But even for us doing some kind of check-in,
yeah.
Whether it be, I like to do it first thing in the morning and then right before I go to bed, doing a check-in with ourselves, how am I feeling? Do, a little body scan, where am I feeling distress? Am I feeling achy or pain or, any of these things? What is my body telling me about how my day was? And, that initial one, whether it's just a little bit of mindfulness or if you take showers in the morning, really taking some time and say, what do I want for my day? Right? Yeah. How can I care for myself?
Yeah, I think it's important too. Our son's therapist just gave him a new one. We used to do it by the Inside Out characters. And so each one of them had a color. And so we did it by colors. And there's I think you can get it for free online. And we laminated it and it's hanging up. But he's like mad into Legos. Like that's his hyper focus thing. And so she did it with Lego heads, which was really cute for him and like on point for what he is into. And one thing that was important for me to notice, because, I talk to my husband all the time about how he loves to give like a 3-point sermon when Briggs is in a meltdown. And I'm like, you might as well, you're preaching to your own self because he's not listening to one word you say. You might as well be talking like the daggone Peanuts teacher. And so like, I think it's important that we do these check-ins, not only when they're having a hard time, but also when we're even keel, so that your kid is able to better articulate and to the best of their ability, what does a 3 look like to them? Or what does blue look like to them or whatever, because he can sit here when he's not upset and talk to me in a full conversation about how, oh, blue is when you're calm and you're this and you're this, and red is when you're mad and you're having an explosion. But when he's in red, there are no kind of words coming out that aren't expletives or somebody's getting hit. So I think that's an important part of that scale. And I love that you said that about doing that check-in with ourselves. I've been talking a lot and writing a lot about going through my own first ever med change with my anxiety. And I'm doing a lot of breathing it out. I'm having a hard, like literally talking to you guys right now, my chest is like, just talking about it. And so it's been good in some ways that it's almost forced me to be present in my body, which is very foreign to me, because I just operate on autopilot because I'm always so tired and my kid needs a lot and you have more than one kid. And it's just like, constant. There's always stuff to do. And so I talked to you guys about this before. This is what The Body Keeps the Score, this book. I put it on my like top reads on the Mom on the Rock shop page. You can get it. The Facebook page you can click through. I don't like, this guy doesn't know me. It would be great if we could go to coffee. Is he dead? I don't know. When did he write this, Miranda?
No, he's alive still.
Okay.
Bessel van der Kolk. He's alive, girl.
I mean, who has a name like that? I don't know. But a whole brilliant genius. But I will tell you this, I have had to read this in chunks because it's a lot. And I don't say a lot like science. He like breaks down the science real clear. It's a lot in that, hey, Mandy, it's a lot in that I'm like reading this thinking, oh my gosh, like I'm highlighting parts like, this is me. This is my son. Is this what happened? Is there trauma I've missed? Is there something that I haven't labeled as trauma? And it actually is. And so it's really kind of like I have mind-blowing moments about every 5 minutes reading it. And there's just highlights all through. It looks like my Bible. I mean, it is just really like notes and highlights and all kind of. And so if you click through, you can search it on Amazon or wherever. If you click through the Facebook link or the Mama on the Rocks link, I get a kickback from Amazon. That's the difference, which, you know, is like 0.3%. But whatever, I'm grateful. Eventually I'll be able to afford a coffee. So it's good. But everybody should own that book. Everybody should read it. Everybody should reread it. I mean, I'm telling you, it will give you a lot of insight to your kiddos, to yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, when we have coffee, I'll talk to you all kinds. I'll blow your mind with some Bessel van der Kolk.
I can't wait. I want you to talk, because we're about 10-minute mark. I want you to talk about EMDR, and I'm throwing this curveball at you, but here's the deal. Miranda talked about this very briefly in our last session, and I want you guys to understand what this type of therapy is. It is relatively untouched because most of our kids, not always, most of our kids generally are put into play therapy or CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy, for a lot of reasons. One, CBT is measurable, so they can give you a prescription almost, like, this is what your kid has, this is what we're going to try. This didn't work, we're going to try this. We're going to try, like, and we've all been down that road, right? We have a bag of 29 things that worked yesterday, now it works tomorrow, nope, doesn't work anymore, next week we'll try it again. And then play therapy is just because our kids can keep their hands busy. They can be doing things while they can be showing us, like a therapist can almost do an assessment with your kid by having them play in the sand or do something. We can tell a lot by those things. So EMDR, I want you to talk to us about what it is and why it's so significant. This is not a therapy practice that a lot of people do because it's so significant in its breakthroughs, but it's hard for science to tell us why, because brain stuff is still so new. I mean, I know it's 2020 and everything, but like people are still like, yeah, this part of our brain does this, but I can't tell you why it does that. So tell us about this, because y'all, this is blowing my whole mind and I'm getting certified in this and this is happening because it's just the best thing ever. So talk to us.
Absolutely.
I know you're sold out. I know. I want you.
Let me tell you, this is I can talk about EMDR like I talk about one of my babies. So you did not throw me a curveball.
Yes.
But EMDR, it's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy. And so it has been around for 30 years. Francine Shapiro just randomly came across this walking down a path in the park, started darting her eyes one way to the other, and noticed that it caused her some relief from some stressors. She was a psychotherapist. So then she's like, hey, let me try this on my friends. And so over and over again, and this thing has been researched like nobody's business. Yes. It's just unmatched.
Yes.
So I will tell you, I've done tons of EMDR and play therapy integration, actually, for kiddos. They go hand in hand.
Yes.
Shout out to Sydney, because she, ignited my love for play therapy.
Yes.
But they go hand in hand, but it's expanding. When people talk or even, initially learn about EMDR, they think that it is just for trauma. It's not.
Yeah.
But pretty much what it does is there's different ways that we do bilateral stimulation. So all it means is we stimulate both sides of the midline in a pattern. And what it does is it replicates our REM sleep, right? So when we're doing our rapid eye movement sleep, that's when our brain heals and cleans itself. And so the thought process is that sometimes things get stuck.
Yes.
And so when our brain tries to heal, it's kind of like it's bumping up against something. So it's how do we get to that
Yep.
EMDR is the only therapy that can address pre-verbal trauma. So there are studies that are actually done where they can address in utero trauma
Yep.
that has occurred. But I will tell you, ladies, for me, the biggest thing is, in the past, I had a 9-year-old young man. We're doing play therapy and EMDR, and he starts acting out something that happened when he was 18 months old, and his mama falls in the floor bawling because she said, I did not think he could remember this. And so it is powerful.
Oh, I just
therapy.
got goosebumps.
It is powerful, but it's very intense, but it's very fast. And so once a client really starts to, they get hooked with EMDR. So
yeah, and I will tell you guys, so and I will tell you when you look up EMDR, and I'm telling you this as mamas and as for our kiddos, it does heal faster, but it is a wildly intense process. So like I've gone through it myself. It will bring all your SH to the surface. I'm talking about, you are like living like this. So my own therapists say, okay, when you're going to do this, when you're going to come in for a session and you do them like weekly, whatever, you need to plan an hour afterwards where you can go walk, where you can go get a coffee, where you're not around. Your kids don't need you. Your husband's not texting you about how bad they're acting. Like, ain't none of that going on. And so you really kind of have to prepare your heart and mind and your schedule. But what's great about it for us as extreme parents, because we all know we don't have the time. I don't have the time. I don't. I mean, telehealth, thank Jesus. I mean, it's not the same as in person, but I don't have to leave my house. I don't have to ready my kids. I don't have to worry about if Briggs is going to have a whole 24-hour meltdown in the car. Like, I don't have to deal with that. So there are some blessings to it, but I will say, get ready and buckle up, because, and it will bring up some stuff that you didn't even know was there. And so it's like old school hypnosis that they did for hundreds of years. And then in the 90s, they were like, wait a second, not so sure about this. And they, there's a ton of studies. You'll see it done on veterans a lot. But again, like Miranda said, it's not only for trauma, though it is quite effective on healing trauma. And so Sid was talking to us last week about how when we're walking through the stress cycle, we can get stuck in that middle of that tunnel. And if we don't get ourselves out, we're just going to keep on. It's a cycle. It's a loop, right? And so EMDR helps, like Miranda said, when we're stuck, it helps get us unstuck so that we can kind of get to the other side of that. And when I tell you that's powerful, it is crazy.
Yeah. Well, and the core belief when I'm saying it to my clients is that some kind of experience happened that made us believe this negative thought about ourselves. So whether it is that I'm not capable, I'm unlovable, whatever it is, or I'm unsafe, on and on and on. And then other events have happened that then kind of like reactivated and confirmed that negative belief.
Yes.
And so EMDR focuses on finding that negative belief and changing it. So one of the most powerful experiences as a clinician I've had is not only does it fuzz up negative memories, I've actually had kiddos and adults completely like that memory be gone.
Yeah.
And it's not like Men in Black, right? Where it's just like, look at this thing and they're all gone. It's a very specific memory that to this date, nobody has complained about losing those. But people actually coming back to the next session and I say, okay, let's pull back up the memory that we were working on last week. And they just start sobbing.
Yes.
It's gone. I don't even know what it was.
Yes.
Right. So it's
and remember,
really, really
guys,
powerful.
3 weeks ago when Dr. Browning talked to us about our body and feeling in where was our trauma, or where is our feeling, or where is our anxiety in our body? And she was making the very clear point that trauma is how we perceive an event. It is an event that happened to us or how we perceive it. So please understand, if you didn't watch that, do yourself a favor and go back and watch it or rewatch it. It was powerful. But we talked about big T and little t trauma. So oftentimes, especially as parents, we compare what happened to us and say, well, at least I wasn't this. At least my kid doesn't this. That doesn't mean that our reality is not traumatic. And so as somebody who has diagnosed PTSD and CPTSD, I mean, our caregiver, our chronic exposure is every day, all day, every day, all day, reactivate. So if you have that thing in you that says, I'm stupid, I'm not good enough, I'm a bad mom, I'm a whatever, maybe it started when you were a kid, maybe it started last week, everything is how we perceive it as validating that trauma. So it might not be that Susie Ann, what she said really meant you're a bad mom, but boy, did it feel like it. And so being able to tap into that in a positive way and reorganize how we think is just kind of wild.
Yes.
Kind of wild.
Well, and just like you said, like those things can come in at any time.
Yeah.
Right. And being able to just identify what they are and be able to target that. Like, you'd be surprised of how much stuff is linked to that.
Yes.
But even people, you know, I did the Andrea conference this year virtually. There was stuff about how to treat dyslexia with EMDR, several chronic pain disorder treatments for EMDR, lots of multicultural and racial trauma treatments that are currently under review. So it is all across the spectrum of the things that it can do and help you to heal, and things that, you know, it's kind of part of the process of classes. Okay, I never thought.
Yes.
Like I've not thought about that since this happened.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't put that together.
And think about things like some things, and I'll just be real transparent with you guys. Some things that came up for me that I would not have, if I was listing out traumas, I would not have listed. When I had a very much forced on me emergency C-section with my son, who's our extreme kiddo. Many of us have had that. That's a more commonplace thing. There's a whole lot of stuff and I VBAC'd with my daughter with a midwife, and it was a whole separate experience. But I will tell you this, then she almost died and I almost died. I'm not spiritual gifts, giving birth, not on my list. But I will say I did not expect that. And I'm certain that has had some trauma on my babies. I can see how it would be traumatic for my son receiving his diagnosis each time, because he has 6 now. And we talk about that in a very positive way. However, how he perceives that again, but also me as a mom, and I try to write about this a lot. There is a grieving process as an extreme parent. What did we think our childhood would look like for our kid? What did we think parenthood would look like? What do we think normal is? Because we sure aren't living it, right? The grieving the process of what you envisioned it to be, what is normal, what does an outing look like, what does a birthday party look like, because none of that stuff is what we thought. And so those are important things that we might think are really small, but man, do they have an imprint on our heart and on our body.
Absolutely. One thing you said a little before, or even when those things come up, lots of times, especially mamas, we have a guilt thinking, I can't, you know, maybe I shouldn't feel guilty for this, or what is wrong with me. And so I tell my clients all the time, you cannot compare traumas, right? It doesn't matter if you drown in 15 foot of water or 5 foot of water, you still drown, right? So being mindful and making sure, you know, our feelings are really valid, and that we don't have to justify them to anybody, right? They don't have to meet some expectation of, okay, now I can feel bad because this is went over this marker, right? That if we feel bad, then we feel bad.
Yeah.
And
we've been talking about that recently too with, I shared actually a post of a friend, and I've written about it recently about Spence and I see the same therapist separately and then sometimes together. And one thing that has come up is me being almost resentful of his ability, and I think a lot of men's natural ability to recognize when they need to check out and give themselves the freedom to do that. It's just almost innate, not in all men, but you know, generally. And for some reason, we just feel like bad about that. Whether I not only guilt myself, but then I rationalize in my head, if I ask him for an hour, I need to be able to like pay him back tenfold. Like, what is that? Who made that payment system up? I don't know. But really, that's how I feel. And I do it to myself. He doesn't make me feel like that. And so I think that wherever that guilt comes from, how freeing would it be for us as mamas to be able to just freaking take a breath, to just take a breath and not have to feel bad about it, and not have to feel guilted by literally thousands of people a day who tell me I'm a terrible mom and I'm ruining my kid's life and I'm an awful person. How awesome would it be to be able to just like live in your calling, live in whatever it is in your life, and just do it because you know that's what you're supposed to do. And so our homework this weekend, yes, I was a teacher, so go ahead and write it down. If you aren't familiar, if you haven't taken it, I want you to look up ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences. It's 10 questions. It'll take you 10 seconds to answer it. And it'll give you a scale. Is it on 1 to 5?
No, it's either yes or no, and every yes is a point.
Every yes is a point. And then talk about what that scale is. It'll tell you if you look it up, but talk about that scale.
Yes. So 4 and above is high on the ACEs. And so there are some statistics that show what kind of medical implications have been able to be tracked as a result of.
Yes.
I mean, there's some statistics that show that healing post-surgery, your ACEs score can come into play as to how resilient you will be in healing post-surgery, regardless of any other factor.
Yeah.
So California is doing some really neat things, and their Surgeon General has kind of implemented that ACEs into like every kind of PCP appointment.
Mm-hmm.
They're seeing such a medical correlation. And it doesn't mean that you're destined to have it, but it just means, hey, there's some work I've got to do because we can heal this stuff.
And if we start treating mental health like physical health, that's when that stuff can be integrated. That's where the advocacy piece comes in. So first homework, ACEs score, I want you to look at it for yourself, and I want you to look at it for your kid, because it can be very insightful. Do a little bit of research. It can take you 10 minutes and you'll be kind of like, holy crap. Secondly, if you, I would love for you guys to at least look into EMDR. Just read about it. Is there, with your certification, is there a website they can look up information that's reliable?
It's emdria.org. So it's EMDRIA.org. It's the EMDR International Association. That's who I'm certified through, and that's like the big boss mama of EMDR. That has all kinds of resources. I'm on the page, so feel free to message me. I'll be happy to talk to you about it, because I'll tell you, I've had over 100 hours of specialty EMDR training, just post basic. So it's something I'm really, really passionate about. I'm really excited to continue to grow.
And one cool thing about EMDR therapists is they have to pay for and put in a crap ton of time to get the certification. And so they are very passionate about it. They know their stuff. It's not just like anybody that goes to grad school for counseling is going to get cognitive behavioral therapy training. They're going to get some psychoanalytical training. They're going to get some talk therapy. Like all that stuff is part of it. And it's like a little bit of here, a little bit, but very specified training like that is like kind of pretty awesome. So I would love for you guys to just look into it for yourself. You know, I'm always going to tell you, like, no, everyone's the expert on their own kid. I'm never going to sit here and tell you I know more about your situation or your kid than you do, ever. But I can tell you that I know enough about it to say it's worth checking into, because what we tend to forget, and what it shocks me how many parents forget, is we pay our doctors, we pay our specialists, we pay our therapists, whether it's through insurance, whether it's through Obamacare, I don't care how you pay some way. And so you get, like, it needs to fit for you. If it does not fit for you and your child, find somebody else. If the type of therapy that is happening is not right for your kid, next. Like, because and sometimes what works today won't work tomorrow, and that's okay. And so I know the pain. We used to live tiny for 3 years. We moved a lot. I know the pain of having to start over, and it is a freaking nightmare. But if you can find the right one, it's a game changer for you and your kid. And
I would be happy to, if you are thinking about doing EMDR and you want a recommendation of a provider, message me, because in this area, I know pretty much all of them. I've met them in some way, shape, or form. And I was going to throw in there, another thing about EMDR is your EMDR provider has to have had EMDR therapy. So from day one of training, we spend half the day getting and giving EMDR therapy in front of a live supervisor. I mean, it is day one really focused. And so just to be a basic trained EMDR provider, you have 50 hours of training.
And so you guys know because I wouldn't have known this if I wasn't in grad school, your therapist for your kiddos or for yourself does not have to experience therapy themselves, which I think is a crime, by the way. Just because if you've been through therapy, it's a very intimate, very raw experience. And I feel like in order for you to be able to be on the therapist side of that, you should have experienced what that seat feels like, both for your kiddos and for yourselves, or for your, like a couples therapy situation or whatever, family therapy, reunification therapy, name any kind. And so that is like a pretty priceless gift, to have a type of therapy that your therapist knows exactly what you're going through. They know if you're terrified, they know if you're anxious, they know if you're happy, they know all of those feelings because they've gone through that. And so I want you guys to look up those ACEs scores. I want you guys to look up can't think of
EMDR.
it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I want to remind you that after this video, I'm going to post the winners of the mug. And I decided, since I have 2 gifts, I'm going to give them to 2 people. So I'm going to send a mug out. I'm going to post it after this. When I post the video, I'm going to send a mug out. I'm going to send a necklace out, Warrior Mama, a Mug Life mug for mamas that ride minivans and listening to Gangsta's Paradise. Because, you know, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. And I'm going to hopefully get it to you by Christmas. But listen, don't hate me. Things are crazy, and the post office is unreliable. It's probably their fault. But what I want you guys to do, everybody that's right here, I'm pretty sure you guys have already gone and become a supporter. So that's important, because that's where everything's going to go on from the 1st forward. As of the 1st, I'm going to cancel everybody's PayPal appointments so that nobody pays me twice. And then I'm going to start in the supporter group, and we're going to do live videos. We're going to probably do some more pre-recorded with experts so they can be longer. That way you guys can get as much out of it as you can, and then I'll pop on and do a lot more live. So that's going to be kind of my primary place of connecting with you guys, because I tell you, and sometimes I feel like you don't really believe me. Like, this is like my space. This is my thing. This is my space. Like, you guys are like, oh my gosh, like this is my sanity for the week. No, you don't know how much I need your faces. You don't know what it means to me when I do my Mama Monday live in the Mom on the Rocks big fat page and your little circle pops up. Like, I feel like my friend's here and I can finish this. So I really depend on you guys, and I'm so appreciative. And I will just tell you, because you're my people, I need to get to 400 in that supporter group to pay our bills. 400, that's my goal. That's that's less than 1%. I have over 50,000 people, you guys. That's math that my husband did for me. I'm not going to lie. I was like, how many is that? Is that 10%? I don't know, because I teach English. Whatever, it's fine. But we can do it. And I'm going to keep churning out resources because I love you guys and we need it. And I just keep telling myself, when I'm like, $4.99 a month, oh my gosh, that's more than my coffee costs. I think Spence keeps telling me, my husband, if this existed when we were going through this diagnostic process, if this existed when we had no one, we would have paid anything. We would have put a line item in our budget to feel like we weren't crazy. And so I'm hoping that other people feel that way, because you guys are my line to sanity so many days. And I'm so grateful for you, and I'm humbled, and I'm so glad you're here. Have an awesome Christmas. Our Friday nights fall on Christmas and New Year's Eve or New Year's Day or something. So we won't have lives those 2 Fridays, but I will post lives. I will be in there. You'll see my face, whether you want to or not. Don't watch it. It's fine. Miranda, thank you so much. Me and Miranda are going to go get coffee when I get back in town. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. Maybe we'll do a live. Miranda, let's just pop on and surprise them from Starbucks.
We'll do a live, yes.
That's what we're going to do. I can't wait. Okay, you guys are going to have coffee with us soon. It's coming. Get ready for it. Except, Ty, you're going to have to just drink water or something in your intermittent fasting. I don't know. What hours can you drink coffee? I don't know.
Yeah.
7 to no, I'm why am I blanking? 11 to 7. 11
in the morning. Okay, that's our window, Miranda.
Okay.
Sometime between 11 and 7, we got to make it happen.
Okay, we can do that.
I love you guys so much. I pray that your Christmas and New Year's is uneventful, truly. That's what I pray. That's what I'm praying for myself. Please, nobody go crazy. Including myself. And I will do my best to remember, after I post this video, to also post that ABC chart so you guys can just print it off without having to buy that resource. So I will put it in there for you guys. Miranda, as always, you're my hero, and I will see you very soon, live and in person.
Yes, thank you.
Bye,
Yes.
ladies. You're the best.